Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Kewen. I am the sales manager and som here at Penswoods Winery. Um, Today we're going to be tasting through a little wine. So what we do for these live tastings is every Monday, every Sunday now, we post our 10% off Corinth wine of the week. So that gives you a chance to grab a few bottles and taste along with me. So every Wednesday at 4, we'll do a live tasting together, kind of talk a little bit about the varietal. Hi, Bryn, and talk a little bit about the cheese we paired with it and taste together and kind of do fun things like that. So every Sunday's a deal, every Wednesday's a tasting. And then if you have any extra questions, actually this Friday, we'll be going live on Facebook and Instagram with our winemaker and vineyard manager, Davide Criato, so he can get you up to speed on what's happening with this vintage, what's happening in the cellar right now, and then answer any questions you have about this week's wine or really anything else that's on your mind for that. So super excited for Friday, but let's roll into it. So as many of you know, at Penswoods, our primary focus is our drier styles of wine, but today I want to shine a little light on our small but mighty sweet wine program. We're going to do a pretty fun and deep dive into the wild world of Moscato. So Moscato is not often thought of as one of the greats in the wine world. But you know what? It's been around over 1,000 years longer than Cabernet Sauvignon. Um, and it actually has a really interesting history. So this ancient little lady right here actually deserves our respect, and we're going to get into that right now. So first, we grow two different kinds of Moscato. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about both varietals. And the first one I'm going to talk about is what makes our white Moscato, and that is Moscato Canelli. Or depending where you're from, Muscat Blanc, Moscato Bianco, Muscat Petit Grain. Because of its ancient history, it has literally dozens of names. Like I could make you a list like 20, 30 names long, and over 200 different variations of the very same grape. So our talk today kind of just scratches the surface of what Moscato really is, but to give you an idea, it is probably one of the oldest known wine producing grapes in the world. Just the sheer breadth and number of varieties of Muscat suggests that it is perhaps the oldest domesticated grape variety. And there are theories that even most of the varieties that we work with today in the vinifera grape family are actually descendants from the Muscat varietal. So Moscato Canelli is literally, as far back as scientists can prove, the OG grape of the wine world. Um, Moscato Canelli is Greek in origin. It was cultivated by the ancient Greeks and planted all along the Mediterranean. They were the first to bring it to France through the trading port in Marseille. And actually, scientists from Penn have analyzed clay pots from the time of King Midas and from his burial mound, and the key component for the alcoholic beverage served at his funeral is actually Moscato grapes. So that's 8th century, again, super, super old grapes. So it's kind of cool to think that Moscato that you're drinking today actually goes back that far. Yes, it is. This is a sweeter one. There are some, we'll talk a little bit about different drier styles of Moscato that's being made, but the Moscato we make at our tasting room, and that is generally the most popular, is going to be a sweeter. But again, there's a wide range of things you can do with Moscato. Thanks, Marielle. So the grape was, like I said, first cultivated by the Greeks, and then it was spread around during the Roman conquest by the Romans. Extremely popular, strong, sweet wine. And by the time of Charlemagne, it was the top exported grape out of France. In the Middle Ages, the grape had already been very well established in northern Italy, in the Piedmont region. And it's actually the very first documented varietal in Alsace and Germany. So again, it's just so exciting and super cool to see the history behind this grape. And we also know that it was introduced to South Africa in the 1700s. So this grape is literally grown all over the world. It is, like I said, this is just scratching the surface of its very, very large history. And I just think it's so cool that every time we pour a glass of Moscato, we are drinking wine made from the same grape as they did 1,000 years ago, that the Greeks did, the Romans did, kings and people all along the Mediterranean. So it's like so cool. Food pairings, we'll actually get to that at the end, but a lot of really nice spiced dishes go so well with Moscato, but I'll dive into that in a little bit. So that's Moscato Canelli. Super old, original gangster of the wine world. Very, very fascinating little grape. So like I said, we grow two different kinds of Moscato. The second one we grow is a much newer character on the scene. This is a Moscato DM Virgo, or a black Muscat. It is vinifera. It is a hybrid crossing of Shiva Grossa, which is, they don't know if it's Italian or German, and between Muscat of Alexandria, which is not the same as the Moscato Canelli, but again, another very, very ancient Moscato varietal. Is one of the parent varietals of Moscato DM Virgo. So this was made in England in 1850. Obviously, it's very cold there, so they mostly grew it in hothouses and is actually used for table grapes. But then it became more popular as a winemaking grape. It started being grown in France, Italy, in Eastern Europe. They used Moscato DM Virgo to make kind of a lighter, drier little red wine. Used to be pretty big in Australia, not as much anymore, but we'll talk a little bit about what they do there with it. But they grow California, Pacific Northwest, Virginia, Texas, and actually it's becoming a very popular varietal in China right now. And they're actually like hybridizing the shit out of it. They've made like 20 some odd different hybrids made with Moscato DM Virgo, so it's really taken off over there. The Muscat grape as a general category contains a number of compounds that give them their distinct flavor. And I thought it was interesting to note that they actually have a really high concentration of antioxidant flavonoids, just as high as a lot of red wine grapes. So that means that, the possible benefits that scientists always tout from red wine consumption can actually be found and drinking Muscat varietals as well. So cheers to your health. Another reason to start drinking Moscato. Another interesting is Canelli is, Moscato in general, but Canelli in particular, is uniquely known for producing a wine that actually tastes and smells like exactly what it does on the vine. And if you've been to our vineyard late August, early September, we like to bring up grapes or take you out in the vineyard and actually pick this grape off the vine and eat it and then taste the wine, because there's so much flavor just right off the vine, and it literally tastes exactly the same, and we don't over manipulate it, and it's just such a beautiful grape, and it's kind of cool to be able to taste the grape and drink the wine side by side. So if you haven't got an opportunity for that, definitely make sure you swing by the tasting room later this summer in September and grab a little snack of that Moscato, because it's so cool to kind of, like I said, taste them side by side. So Moscato is typically very sweet scented, a lot of fruits, a lot of florals, orange blossom, lychee, a wide range of citrus, kind of peachy, some sweet melon notes, touches of honey, touches of spice. It's just pretty, it's fresh, it's got this beautiful luscious body. And Canelli is really capable of producing some wines with amazing finesse. And some of the purest, true, actual to grape flavors. So it is like a very different experience, even if you're not super into sweet wine. It's a popular choice is to have a little sip before dinner or after dinner. It's a really beautiful grape. DM Virgo, same as Canelli, very, very aromatic, beautiful, rich coloring grapes, very intense purple, deep blue in color. Rose petal is a big, big note in this wine. Very, very fruity character, a lot of strawberry, watermelon, has a nice brighter acidity. And we usually see like a medium, low, a little bit lower sugar content than the Canelli because we are in a cooler climate. So we'll talk a little bit about the we touched on it a little bit earlier, the wide range of Moscato. So although Moscato is commonly known for being a sweet wine, there are many places that do drier styles. But there's places that do vermouth and dessert wines and sparkling wines. In Greece, they use it to produce very aromatic, drier styles, some straw wine. In Italy, they literally do it all: the frizzante, the sparkling, and some more sparkling fortified dessert wines. They make vermouth as well. And obviously the most famous Moscato from Italy is from the Piedmont region, the Moscato d'Asti, which is made majority with the Moscato Canelli, and you'll usually see it in a pretty blue bottle as well. In southern France, they generally blend it with a Grenache Blanc. In Australia, they actually do very aromatic cask-aged Moscato. It kind of tastes like a cross between like Madeira and fruitcake, and if you haven't been able to get your hands on some, it's very phenomenal, very, very nuanced, and honestly as delicious as any port. And that's made out of Moscato Canelli. So in our vineyard in particular, so we started growing Moscato Canelli in 2010. It really loves our clay soil. We have about 7 rows, 4 acres in total. We harvest this the first week of September. So very first thing we harvest, she kicks off the season. We get about 4.5, 5 tons per acre. So although we don't grow a lot, it is a very, very juicy grape, very heavy. So even though, 7 rows, we're still able to make a good amount of wine just from that because it is so juicy. Canelli has small, kind of pale yellow berries, kind of tighter clusters. The French name, the Moscato à petit grain, that means literally means small berry. It can make it susceptible to some gray rot and mildew and some other fun stuff. And it tends to bud early, so it kind of puts it at risk for frost damage as well. It is more partial sometimes to a warmer climate, but it actually can benefit a lot from higher altitudes in a cooler climate like ours because it still maintains that freshness. So instead of getting overripe, big fruity sugar bomb, we still have a lot of acidity retained in there, so it feels like a little more light, a little more refreshing, a little more fun. The Moscato DM Virgo, we planted in our vineyard in 2015 from clones from California. This grape can be a little bit more finicky. It likes to produce its clusters kind of all over the place and a little bit higher in the canopy. So from a vineyard management standpoint, it can be a little bit more of a pain in the ass, a little more of an adjustment. And the stems are actually very soft. So as soon as this grape is ripe, you got to harvest it because those berries will just start dropping. And kind of like medium to large size berries, nice loose clusters. It has a pretty thick skin, so it makes it very resistant to botrytis. So it doesn't typically see mold on the vine, but with overexposure from the sun, you will see some raisoning. But it is pretty high vigor. We do get an abundant production, and overall, a pretty good grape to grow. Let's see. So getting into our wines in particular. So we'll first start off with the Moscato Canelli. So if you have your wine, you can taste it all along with me. And if you don't have your wine, I mean, oh my God. So this just smells so good. So this is our Moscato 2019. And 2019 was an outstanding vintage for us. Just beautiful across the board. Nice long growing season. I mean, there was like a month and a half there where it didn't rain and nice dry harvest. It was a very, very good year. But so this Moscato, like I said, early September, we actually harvested it on the 5th of September 2019. It's a quick one. You just, we pick it, we ferment it, we bottle it. So it was bottled less than, or just over a month later, about mid-October. We did about 170 cases of this vintage. It's 7% alcohol and about 70 grams per liter residual sugar, which can seem a little bit higher, but a typical Moscato d'Asti is between 9 and 100 grams per liter for residual sugar. So if you've had Moscato before and you're thinking like, man, Moscato is so sweet, just keep that in mind. Like we have about 20 grams per liter less sugar than a typical Moscato. So ours, while it is sweet, it is lighter, it's refreshing, it's fun, and it is so, so good. I mean, the nose on this is outrageous. It's so much peach, some sweet Meyer lemon, lychee. The body is just like succulent and silky. It just slides right over your tongue. Candied pineapple. There's some white grapefruit in there and a soft effervescence. It's just a fun, fun wine to drink, actually. And, you know, I'm not typically a super duper sweet wine drinker myself, but man, this is so nice to have like an after dinner sipper. And there's incredible amount of flavor, and it's just really, truly a very cheerful little wine. You can't have a good time, not have a good time drinking Moscato. It smells so good. There's so much flavor. Whew. All right. So next up, we're going to taste the Moscato Rosé. So this one is also from our bangin' 2019 vintage. This is also harvested the first week of September. This is a little bit more. We did about 270 some odd cases. 8.5% alcohol. This one has a little less residual sugar. It's about 50 grams per liter. So a little bit less sweet than the white Moscato. This is actually 70% Moscato DM Virgo and 30% Moscato Canelli. So it's a blend of both grapes, but we do co-ferment them together. And this one, again, like that rose petal is so, so prevalent on the nose. And it's one of those ones where when you taste it off the vine, you can really taste it and smell it. It's a huge, huge note in this wine. Juicy watermelon. It actually kind of reminds me of those watermelon Jolly Ranchers. Like nectar, like hibiscus, apricot skin, ruby, ruby red grapefruit. A little more semi-sweet than full-on sweet. Super round and fruity up front. A little bit more drying on the finish. And again, just a nice little wine to sip on. I mean, the days are getting warmer, and that really, really means it's Moscato drinking season for sure. Hot damn. It's so good. It's so good. Pairing wise, one of you asked the questions earlier. There's actually a wide range of things that can go with Moscato and some things we typically have a hard time pairing with other wines. And I'm talking about spice food, which can overwhelm a delicate dry wine or kind of, the tannins can combat with in a red wine. Sweeter wines are your go-to for any Asian, Indian, Mexican cuisine. It's a fabulous brunch wine. I did last year for Christmas some bacon French toast bake. So, so good. But even just bacon, eggs, waffles, and a glass of Moscato. So, so good. Mexican chilaquiles for breakfast. Really good. Again, back to some Asian cuisine. There's a little shout out to Nunu Kitchen in Phoenixville. They do pineapple fried rice, and they do some fried calamari with the coconut honey garlic salt. So good with Moscato. And then some kind of more fruity dessert dishes like lemon meringue or a berry tart mascarpone. Like those are so good with Moscato as well. Anything light, fresh, and fruity, anything like salty and spicy really pairs well with Moscato. This week we actually paired it with the Shepherd's Delight from Otterbein Acres out there in the middle of PA. This is cave aged for 12 months. It is a raw sheep milk cheese. It was the winner at the PA Farm Show in 2018. And it's just a hard, nutty, earthy, and very salty little cheese. And again, that nutty saltiness with the Moscato, it kind of cuts through some of the sweetness, and that salty nuttiness kind of makes a little bit more of that effervescent sparkle, and it's a fabulous combination together. So if you and all of our cheeses right now are 15% off at the tasting room. So if you want to sling in a block or two when you pick up some wine, I definitely recommend it because this cheese is banging. So good. So that's kind of all I had for Moscato. When I say all, that was a lot. We went through, all the way from ancient Greece to our vineyard to tasting wines today. And if you kind of jumped in the middle, if you're on Instagram and Facebook, this will be posted live, the whole thing after we're done here. But really cool history, ancient Greek varietal, and it's really cool to be a part of this tradition of drinking wine that people have drank for 1,000 years. And I don't think there's anything more moving as a wine drinker than being part of that human history with the wine, and getting to share that with all of you has been really cool. So next, like I said, on Friday, we're doing a live happy hour Q&A with our winemaker and vineyard manager, Davide Criato. He can talk a little bit more about Moscato if you want to pick his brain about that. But he'll be diving into what this vintage is looking like so far, what's happening in the winery, what we're cellaring, and really any other questions you can think of. He'll be taking a swing at on Friday. So grab your favorite bottle of wine, get a little tipsy, and throw out your questions because he's super excited and here to answer them. On Sunday, we will announce our new current wine of the week, and then you can tune in next Wednesday to taste again with me. Hopefully learn something. Hopefully I got to most of your questions, and if I didn't, please just DM. I'll get back to you, and thank you again for tuning in. I'm going to close her on up right here. All right. Have a good night. All right. And I don't know if I'm doing it right.